Bismillahirrahmanirrahim and Assalamu alaikum. Today we are going to discuss another topic. This is a short story. The title of this short story is The Storm and it is written by Kate Chopin. This short story was written by the writer on July 19th, 1898, but it was not published until 1969. Why it was not published, we'll discuss this issue when we are analyzing this short story. Coming towards the summary of this short story, there are 5 characters in this short story. One is Baby Not, and he is married to Calixta, and they have a son, Baby. This is one family, and there is another family, that is Elsie and his wife, Clarissa. Now these are 2 families involved in this short story. The short story opens in Louisiana, in which there is a freedom store, and in this store this Baby Not is with his son Bibi, and they are doing their grocery shopping while the wife Calixta is back at home. Now when they are doing the shopping and she is sewing some dresses or something for the cushions, in the meanwhile the weather gets worsened and it starts storming. The storm starts. So when the weather gets worsened, this Baby Not and Baby, they decide to stay at the store until unless the weather gets calm. So they think that they will return then. While Calixta, who is back home, she is very much anxious about the security, about the safety of her family, because her husband and son is outside. In the meanwhile, she thinks that she should bring the laundry from outside of the house because it might start raining. So when she goes out, then comes Elsie. He is riding on the horse. Now who is Elsie? Elsie is basically the ex-lover of Calixta. But now Calixta is married to Baby Not and Elsie is married to this lady Clarissa. When he comes, he starts helping Calixta in picking up the laundry, and then he requests Calixta to please allow him into her house because the weather is very much not favorable. And Calixta, because he is her ex-lover, so she readily agrees to let him in the house. They sit down together and they start talking about their past. Then they start talking about the kisses and the mutual time they spend together. And in the meanwhile, when outside the thunder strikes and the storm gets on its peak, their lustful activities they start, and they start enjoying these activities, and then they end up with the sex. Soon after he does the sex with Calixta, he leaves, and then afterwards the storm calms down and Baby Not and Baby return, and then they do not know whether something has happened or not, while the wife does not tell them. This scene changes, and then Elsie writes a letter to his wife Clarissa about his health, about everything, and she gets happy that she receives the letter from her husband. But the other thing that is important, that she is also happy to stay away from this Elsie. Now the reasons are unknown, but the story ends on a happy note that both the families, although they live apart, but they are happy in their lives. Now this is the basic summary of this short story. Coming towards the analysis part, what is the significance of this title? The significance of this title could be The Storm is that when storm comes, it sometimes brings catastrophe, while sometimes it brings nothing. It comes and it goes by. Here in this case, the storm comes with a catastrophic nature, but the fortunate thing is that Baby Not does not return in time, so Calixta and Elsie enjoy. Here the story ends with this line that the storm passed and everyone was happy. Now this means the storm came with the intention of catastrophe. It was a fatal storm because outside the house the storm was at its peak, and inside the relationship, the feelings and the warmth of the bodies were at peak. But the storm came, the catastrophe came, but it passed and everyone is happy. It means that nothing changed. Although they enjoyed those conjugal movements, Calixta and Elsie enjoyed those conjugal movements, but as far as the catastrophe is concerned, nothing happened. So this is the significance of the title. That is why the writer has given the name The Storm to this short story, that it could go either way. It went in the favor of Calixta and Elsie, but it could go in the favor of Babynor, and he could have caught them red-handed. Then the another question that comes into the mind is why the writer did not publish this short story. The reason could be that because of so many sexual illustration, because of so many explicit sex scenes, this short story was not published, because the writer was afraid of the reactions of the society. So this could be the reason that this story was upheld and it was not published until it was published in the complete works of Kate Chopin in 1969. Then the third thing we need to understand is this short story describes the class difference, the capitalist view. The question could be why Elsie and Calixta did not marry, because they could have married, and the love which they did after the marriage, it could have never happened, and like she could have not gone for adultery, and the same case Elsie could have not gone for adultery, but they did adultery. They did almost the extramarital sex. So the reason which is described by Kate Chopin is that Elsie belonged to the higher class of the society, while this Calixta belongs to the lower class of the society. So the upper and the lower class, and both classes can never marry, because we know that the era in which the story is written, 1900s, so the class differences were at its peak. Upper class was elite class, while the lower class, the labor class, the struggling class, they had nothing to live for. So that is why they both could not marry, and then they get involved into this extramarital affairs after their marriage. So this is another reason. This is what we discussed as the class difference, that the class difference could bring this catastrophe for both. Now this leads to another point, and we get to know that real happiness or actual happiness is not about marrying satisfactorily, not about living in a satisfactory way. It is all about the emotions, it is all about the real pursuit, that wherever there is your real happiness, your real pursuit, this will calm you. And this is actually happening to Calixta. Why does she do this adultery or this sexual intercourse with Elsie? Because although the class difference has made them live apart, but the real happiness for both of them is with each other. Although they are living apart, but their happiness is connected to one another. So this class difference is not only destroying the society in financial way, in the terms of finances, but also in terms of emotions, in terms of love, that the love was made to live apart. If this class difference was not taken into consideration, they would have been living together, and they would have been living together happily with love. But because the class difference made them live apart, their love was separated, and then they could go for the conjugal activities, which was not allowed as far as the society was concerned, and the major thing as far as the religion is concerned. Then we come to another point from this short story, and that is important point, that the writer is trying to tell the readers that although religion does not allow these sorts of activities, but if your real happiness is in someone, you can go for this activity. Although this is not acceptable at all in any society or in any religion, but the writer is thinking of the same thing, that we should achieve our real happiness, we should live happily, we should not bother ourselves for these things, like that religion, the society, what people will think. But this is going against religion, and this could bring a lot of problems for any married couple. Then we have another important point to discuss, and that is the cultural renunciation. Like when they do this sexual activity, they actually defy their cultural norms. They defy their customs of the culture, of the society. Why? Because it was not allowed to do these things in the after marriage, but they both did it, and they both got involved in adultery. They both got involved in a sin, but they have nothing to think about it like in a shamed way, or they did not regret about it. They think that the storm came, it passed, and they are now happy. They don't regret. So this is the point which the writer is raising, that if they had felt regret, they would have thought about religion, but they did not feel regret. They did not feel ashamed. And this is, he is trying to tell that we are associating this, extracting this meaning from this short story, that we should not go against culture, although it can give us happiness for some time or for a span of time, but in reality it is not acceptable at all. So this is all about this short story. I hope I have discussed all the angles that are involved in this short story. If there is any question left, you can put it in the comment box. Stay tuned. Till then, Allah Hafiz.